What are we waiting on at this point?
No, I think we're now live streaming.
We're just
We
waiting
should
on the
be all-
recording
we
light.
should be all set now, Joe. I was able to get the live stream started.
Great, thanks.
I don't see the recording light that was on previously. I don't know if that matters, Mark.
Yep.
There we go. We're recording.
I just started that as well.
Great.
Thank you, Mark.
Now we're good.
So with that, my name is Darius Shanfar. I am the chair of the Finance Committee of the Albany City IDA, Industrial Development Agency. I'm going to start off the roll call. Myself, Darius Shanfar. I think I see Tracy Metzger here.
Here,
Susan Petto. Lloyd Stewart is here. Lee Eck is here.
Here.
Dominic Castellaro is here.
Yes,
I don't believe Bob Schofield is, but if you are, Bob, let us know.
Chair,
Uh,
I'm in attendance, but I'm not a member of the Finance Committee.
Correct. Our first order of business, the minutes haven't been previously distributed. I would ask for a motion to dispense with the reading and accept them as written, as presented.
so moved.
Tracy, second. Dominic? Any discussion, any corrections, anything? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Our next order of business, we have Clinton Ave Apartments on, but I don't know if, Joe, do we want to go into the public hearing for a moment beforehand?
It's at your convenience, Darius. I will say that it's the typical process is for CAC to excuse themselves, so they would have to leave and then come back. So it might be convenient to have that all at the end.
Okay, then we'll do that. Then with that, I would say, let's go into the Clinton Ave Apartments. I know we have Adam Driscoll here, who's representative, but Andy, this is a project similar to the home leasing project that has already been initiated in the city. I don't know if you want to go through that.
Andy, prior to discussing, I just would note that IDA Chair Tracy Metzger intends to recuse herself from this matter and has asked to be placed in a waiting room due to having a lease with the applicant.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'll go in the waiting room now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Nope, absolutely. Thank you, Chair. As Chair noted, the applicant is with us today and available to answer questions. I will run through a summary of the project. The project proposes to revitalize 6 properties located on Clinton Avenue and Arbor Hill. The proposed project includes the historic preservation of 4 vacant row homes and the adaptive reuse of a long vacant former school building, and the new construction of a 3-story mixed-use building into a total of 61 residential affordable housing units. These affordable units will be benefiting households with incomes up to 80% of the area median income. Additionally, the mixed-use building incorporates approximately 12,000 square feet of commercial space dedicated to the Albany Center for Economic Success, with the intention to promote successful ownership of sustainable businesses among people of color, women, and low-income individuals by providing technical assistance and incubator services. The revenue gain to the taxing jurisdictions based on the status quo taxes at the non-homestead rate of approximately $30,000, taking into account the projected pilot payments of approximately $1.66 million, is a net benefit of approximately $1.6 million to the taxing jurisdictions over the life of the requested assistance schedule. The property value increase, currently the collective parcels total an assessed value of just under $600,000. Per a letter from the City of Albany assessor, the anticipated future assessed value of those same parcels is approximately $3.8 million, a net increase of approximately $3.2 million. The estimated total investment of this project is just under $24 million. The community benefits of this project, we will go through in detail shortly, but please note that for comparative purposes, we will go through the project and evaluation assistance framework typical matrix staff matrix analysis for more detail. Due to the special nature of the request and the fact that it involves an affordable housing component, this project was evaluated outside of the project evaluation and assistance framework. And again, we will go back to that shortly. As is typical with all projects seeking real property tax abatement assistance, an in-plan economic impact analysis was requested and conducted by the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, looking at the temporary construction impact, inclusive of the direct, indirect, and induced effects of the construction. The total output is just over $28 million during the construction period. The permanent operations impact upon stabilization, again, inclusive of direct, indirect, and induced effects, has a total impact of $1.7 million. The projected employment figures include 17 full-time equivalent positions and a projected 150 construction jobs. Again, as previously noted, due to the special nature of the requested deviation in assistance from the agency policy manual, a third-party evaluation of the appropriateness of the applicant's pilot request has been commissioned. The third party determined that the assumptions included within the application, in addition to the abatements requested, were within reasonable parameters. As part of your materials packet, the executive summary of that memo was included. The full memo was also distributed as a board-only item, as it does include proprietary financial information regarding the project, its financing and construction. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I will continue on into our comparative matrix scoring sheet.
That'd be great. Thank you.
We'll run through where, again, if this project had been evaluated through this mechanism, how the point structure would have been allocated. Under target geography, the project is located in multiple distressed census tracts, being 2 and 8. That would be a point. The second point for high vacancy census tracts, again, would be census tracts 2 and 8. The project is located within the boundaries of a neighborhood plan, for another point. Under identified priority, the project is engaging tax-exempt vacant structures, 1 point. The project is part of an identified catalyst site, which is an identified development opportunity per the Arbor Hill neighborhood plan. That is a point. It involves the historic preservation of existing structures. That is a point. And it is a community catalyst. That is a point, being that it's supporting multiple initiatives in Albany's 2030 plan. Coming down to identified growth area, conversion to residential. The structure at 163 Clinton Avenue is being converted into residential living accommodations. That is a point. Projected permanent jobs, 1 point. The project is projecting 17 full-time equivalent positions. And for construction jobs, the project would have received 2 points collectively for projecting 150 construction jobs. Financial commitment of just under $24 million. The project would receive a total of 3 points. And based on conversations with the applicant, had this project been evaluated through this mechanism, they may have been eligible to receive 2 additional points under community commitment for MWBE and EEO workforce utilization, as the levels that are required to be met per the framework will also potentially need to be met through additional state requirements involving the financing of this project on the New York State level. Without those 2 points, regardless, this project scores 14. With those 2 points, it could score as high as 16 points. Again, comparative purposes only. As alluded to, there was a third-party evaluation of the requested assistance completed. Again, the executive summary has been provided. If there's any questions or comments regarding the actual contents of the full memo, please let us know. And depending on what those may be, and at council's discretion, we may enter into executive session.
Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts? Do you want to hear from Adam on the project a little bit?
Adam, if you're talking, you're on mute. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you to the committee for allowing us to submit this application. Andy covered, I think, it very well. We are applying for historic tax credits through the SHPO program, so that would also have guidelines for maintaining characteristics of the vacant school and the row homes. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to share some photos of the condition of the buildings or the renderings if anyone is interested. I'm not sure if there were folks from the last meeting that we had that maybe weren't able to see it. I'd be happy to share the screen.
I'm okay with it unless somebody else wants to take a look or pretty intimately familiar with the conditions of some of these properties. I'll ask you how is everything going with the first project you have here on the home leasing project?
It's going very well. We are pretty much wrapped up except for just some punch list items right now. So it's been a long journey, but we're there, and now we're working on the leasing component to it. And yeah, so we're very, very excited and to get to the next chapter.
Great.
I have a couple of questions when you finish.
Go ahead.
The condition, you mentioned the condition of the properties. These properties, or at least the whole string of Clinton Avenue, has gone through a number of major quote unquote developments. Maybe 3 or 4 that I know of. The last one that I know of is Vulcan. Now I wanted to find out whether or not those projects were similar in terms of the rehab that you're talking about, whether those buildings are being rehabbed again for a second time or a third time, or whether the buildings that you're working with are pretty much on a good par in terms of being stabilized.
Yes. So the previous rehab, I don't know the details to it, but I can speak to what we saw. And our rehab is a much more elaborate in regards to what we were doing. We had a lot of structural work that we've done to the buildings, complete new systems, complete meaning MEP systems and sewer and all the mechanicals involved, as well as the aesthetic part of it. So it wasn't just like windows and flooring. It was the whole kit and caboodle rehabs of these buildings. So that's significant long-term investment so that they are brought up to speed and will be very well maintained.
Adam, the original properties were, I think, a lot of them were rehabs of Vulcan properties, were they not?
I believe so.
Okay.
Lloyd, the properties that you're talking about, Adam and his team had come in with Clinton, their phase 1 Clinton project, and taken on much of the portfolio, that exact grouping of properties that you're talking about, and coming in and elevating the rehab. They had been done a couple decades back through previous developers. And as the IDA was considering that project, they were asking those similar questions of sort of what's different now and what will make this, work. And they have come through with really beautiful rehabs. We've seen some of the completed photos and heard from folks up and down Clinton Avenue talking about the quality that has been done on their previous project. And this is an extension of that phase one project into a new suite of properties, again, in collaboration with ACES to continue their investment on the street and raise the quality of housing that's found on Clinton Avenue and in some of the side streets as well with the phase one project.
As I understand it, mostly the units that you're talking about are studio, 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. Is that correct?
For our current project or the one that we're proposing, sir?
Excuse me?
For the project we're proposing or for the previous project?
The project you're proposing.
Oh, yes, yep. We have mostly 1-bedrooms, but there are studios and 2 bedrooms as part of the unit count.
Yeah. Now, one of the issues that you emphasized in your proposal is that there is a low income is an aspect of this project, low income housing. My question is, with 1 studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, does that in your mind reflect what the community surrounding this area is looking for in terms of low income housing, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom? To me, it doesn't seem that the community is the way the community looks and the way the community has been for all the years that I've been in Albany. 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units are not necessarily what's feasible in terms of the families and the structures that exist within those communities. Are you finding difficulty with people in the communities suggesting that those apartments, that those units are too small for the families that would be in the community moving into them? In other words, people moving out of the area around the community, around this project, into those facilities, okay? It would seem to me, based on working in those communities for over 30 years, that those size of units would not be sufficient to suffice the needs of the low income community that's there. Are you seeing a problem with that?
We aren't seeing a problem with it in our existing phase one. The demand has been very strong. And we do have 15 2-bedrooms in our proposed phase two. But we haven't seen, from what I can tell from talking with our management team, any issues with regards to our diversity of the unit layouts.
Yeah, because I've heard and talked with some people about it. Their concern is that, well, in those communities now, their concern primarily is with respect to gentrification. And what we're talking about is those areas within the city now becoming gentrified in terms of people coming in looking for the 1 and 2-bedroom units, as opposed to families, low-income families, looking for larger size apartments.
Well, with regards to what we're proposing, we don't feel that there's a gentrification. We've seen that there's been strong demand, and it's for folks that are living there now. In our phase one, we had, I think, approximately 80 residents that were already residing in phase one, and we're bringing everyone back so that they just have a newer and much more beautiful unit. But we don't feel that we're having folks leave by any means. If anything, it's providing a better, safer home for them where they're already in the neighborhood.
What considerations, this may be a little off the topic, but what considerations were made for those families that had to move out of those units until they were rehabbed? Did you make arrangements for them in terms of finding other places to live, or you just let them know that they had to move for a certain period of time?
Oh, extensively. We worked with the families from day one. Each and every resident, we would work with regards to relocating, what was best, what worked best for them, and we would also cover any costs incurred so that there was no financial impact for by doing that. So there were some that it was all different situations, but we had a full management team, relocation team involved, and still do extensively, so that that complete transition was as seamless as possible, because we know that that's not an ideal situation, and we did everything we could just to minimize that those impacts.
Okay.
Adam,
Another
Go ahead.
I had another question about the low-income housing tax credits. What is your status with that?
For this proposal?
Yeah.
Yep. So we applied the end of the summer, and it was we got it was a very competitive round. We were not awarded, but we spoke with, and that's not uncommon in applying through the 9% HDR round. It's not uncommon to not be selected in the first round, but we did speak with the state and got some feedback, and the feedback was that they were very supportive of the project. It was just there was limited resources. So we will now be reapplying in mid-January in hopes of receiving an award potentially in April or May, and then that would be roughly about 6 months, if we were awarded, about 6 months from that time period to close on the properties and the financing, and then be able to commence construction, which would most likely be in winter of next year.
So it's your understanding that what you're anticipating is a new round of funding?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The situation with the ACES in its facility, is that building going to come down, and is that then going to be built into units as well?
I can. So I failed to introduce my I guess my teammates. Brett Garwood is the CEO of Home Leasing, and Linda McFarland is also on the line, the executive director of ACES. But and Linda, please feel free to jump in. But the existing building that ACES currently occupies would remain. This would be a complement to that lease space, so that they would be utilizing both and basically expanding.
Okay, so it would be expanding into the parking lot area, is that it?
To part of the parking lot area, to the vacant parcel right up to Clinton Avenue.
Okay. All right. Now you mentioned in here that there are two scenarios with respect to parking. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
The parking would be for the ACES partnership building. There's parking available. We're expanding the parking on the other side of Clinton for that new construction, and for the row homes and the school, it's the parking option would be as it is at the moment or currently.
Okay, but you mentioned somewhere about 32 parking spots.
We actually tonight we are going in front of the zoning board to have our proposal of additional parking across the street. Yes, so that would be right now it's where our construction trailer and our leasing trailer initially was, and there's some vacant land there and behind where we'd be adding some parking spaces and some green space as well. So that would actually be where you were mentioning the new construction for ACES would be across the street on Clinton Avenue. There'd be some parking available there as well.
Okay. I'll hold for now.
You can always ask more of them directly offline as well. I just had a couple things. One of the reasons why I like this project and the last one is actually help stave off gentrification because they are low income projects, geared towards low income. A lot of folks who already live in the community, and they make very strong efforts to retain community tenancy. The other thing is I don't think that this project, even though it's focused more on studio 1 and 2 bedrooms, doesn't mean that there isn't a market out there for larger space for larger families. And I believe the original home leasing project did have a bit of a stronger focus on rehabbing some of the brownstones that were, I think, 3 bedrooms as well. Excuse me, as well.
Another thing that I'm concerned with is that there's a housing project that's off of Lawn Avenue in North Albany that my understanding is going to be upgraded, so to speak. And I'm curious as to whether there was any communication between your project and the housing authority with respect to placements for those people from the housing projects. Or have you developed your own list of people to recruit to go into those units?
We would, once we're probably 6 months from completion of construction, our management folks at Home Leasing, they start to do all the outreach and communication for those that would be interested. And then we build an interest list and we start working with all the potential applicants.
Can I add to that? I'm Brett Garwood. I'm CEO of Home Leasing. So this, the leasing for this proposed project wouldn't be associated with the renovation of the North Albany project. This project is marketed. Would not be. This project is marketed to the general public, so anyone may apply. There's no allocation of these units associated with that project.
Okay, and is it your understanding that the people who would be applying for it are people who are living within the area now?
That is largely the market of people who do apply, but we welcome applications and are required to welcome applications from anyone, right? We have to market this open to the general public.
Well, would contact with the housing authority in terms of the North Albany project be outside the limits of what you would try to do in terms of recruiting people for your units?
Oh, no, I'm just making the point that anyone may apply. There isn't a.
Yeah, I understand that, but I understand that, but you're saying there is no partnership, but it's something that you would not be averse to.
Yeah, anybody could apply to our apartments as well. You know, just for disclosure, for the North Albany project, if you're talking about the townhomes, Home Leasing is part of that project as the general contractor in partnership with Albany Housing Authority, just so I'm aware of the project very well.
Okay. And you've spoken with them about the possibility of your project on Clinton Avenue being a resource as far as being able to place people from the housing authority.
No, not in the sense that I think you're describing. If people need to move temporarily from North Albany during the renovations, our project will not have been built in time to do that.
I see.
Right. I mean, we're a great partner. We'll help the housing authority in any way we can, but this project won't be built by the time that project starts construction.
I got you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other?
Yes, Chair, I'm not on the committee, but would you entertain a question just so I can clear up an issue before the full meeting? Thank you.
Sure.
The recent memo that we received refers to a 30-year pilot agreement, but the 2019 application lays out a 20-year pilot schedule. I recognize that sometimes these things change as these developments and needs are addressed, but I was wondering which it is.
Sure, Susan. So it is indeed The request involves a 30-year pilot, and the staff pilot analysis reflecting that full 30-year schedule was provided. However, our current PDF fillable application form only has space for the first 20 years. So the applicant did fill that page in representative of the first 20 years. But if you do refer to the staff analysis, to answer your question, it's 30.
Okay, so the initial application was for 30 years.
Correct.
All right. Where is the final schedule then? Is that, or can you just send that to me, please?
I can send that to you. It is part of the materials as the staff pilot analysis.
And that 30-year term is consistent with other low-income housing tax credit projects to be coterminous with the financing at the state level. And so you'll see that consistently. So it's in the Finance Committee materials, but this is a standard request for projects of this type.
Thank you, Sarah and Andrew. Appreciate that.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
The AMI, I see at 3 different levels. Are you using the city AMI or use the county AMI to determine the AMI rates? Because the city, the reason I'm asking is the inclusionary housing part of the zoning in Albany requires that the developers use the city AMI, which is a little bit different than the county.
Yeah, we're not part of the inclusionary zoning.
Well, I know you're not. That's why I'm
yeah,
just wondering which
but it'll be
valuation you use.
It's the metropolitan statistical area, which is how all the New York State homes and community renewal programs and low-income housing tax credit programs are regulated. It's required to be the regional AMI.
Any other questions, thoughts? All right. Well, I think we're ready to move on with a motion. I'd like to entertain a motion for moving this project forward to a public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Dominic? Lee, do you want a second? Lee seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We'll move on to a public hearing.
Great, we'll get it scheduled.
All right.
Thank you.
Next, if I recall correctly from my agenda, I think we have our professional contracts to go over.
We do, that time of year.
Yeah.
A slew of them in front of us this afternoon, Chair. We've got our 2021 professional service agreements, and there are 5 of them in front of the committee today for your consideration and potential recommendation to the board. The first of those is legal services for general counsel. I'll just run down the list.
Yeah, thank you. I can't pull them up.
Sure.
Thank you.
We've got the legal services for general counsel, and that contract is proposed and within your packet. That is the general counsel agreement with the City of Albany's Corporation Counsel, and there are no proposed changes from the previous year. You also have a legal services agreement for bond and special counsel with Hodgson Russ. There are some small administrative changes proposed to that contract. A minor privacy policy change, as well as some rate adjustments for 2021 that are general. Those 2 contracts, again, are similar to previous years. We do discuss annually the value of having consistent professional services representation, particularly legal representation for the institutional knowledge and specialty areas that council has to the agency. Following the legal services contracts, we do have the professional services contract with Capitalized Albany Corporation for management and administration of the Industrial Development Agency. There are no proposed changes to that one. We also have the contract for services for economic development services with Capitalized Albany Corporation to undertake an economic development program and to assist with funding that economic development program. There are no changes proposed there. And then we have the contract for services for the IDA. That's the 3-party agreement between the IDA, CRC, and Capitalized Albany for the co-management of those organizations. So those are the 5 contracts in front of you. Many of you have seen these year over year. And with exception of the minor changes to the one contract, they are consistent. We can take questions and discuss them at your pleasure.
Does anybody have any questions or anything? I think there are basically no changes for the most part, no substantive changes to this year's contract. Sarah, could you remind me when the last time we RFP'd for the legal services? 2 years ago?
No, it would have been several years prior
Okay.
to that. We have not, again, based on the institutional knowledge that our council has brought, as well as the sort of excellent performance that the committee and board has discussed regarding both general and special counsel. I don't believe we've gone out in recent history for those professional services. And I can't recall off the top of my head when we initially entered into a contract with Hodgson Russ for special counsel. But Joe may know that or have it at his fingertips to be able to say how long they've been on board.
Sarah, unfortunately, I don't. I'd have to go back and check our file, and I can do that.
That's great.
Thanks.
We'll have it ready for next week's meeting.
Terrific. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Do we need a motion to recommend these contracts for signature by the to the full board?
I
That's correct.
believe we should take them individually. And while Susan is not on the committee, I will just note that she is a member of the Capitalized Albany Corporation Board. For the record, for everyone else in the room, she would not be voting as not a member of the Finance Committee today.
Great. Well, then I guess if you wouldn't mind helping me out here a little bit, I'd call for a motion for positive recommendation for the
Legal Services General Counsel.
for the between the IDA and the city, correct?
Correct.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second. I'll second, Dominic.
Do we have Tracy back in? Yes, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I was on mute. I thought you guys forgot about me for a while.
I was calling for a vote. I realized I want to make sure Tracy's back.
Thank you.
Brought you back.
Thank you,
Great.
Joe.
All right, so the second motion I'd ask for is a positive recommendation for the, is it special services or
Legal Services Bond and Special Counsel.
on the special counsel?
So moved.
Lee, second? Dominic,
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The third motion, and this one is also with outside counsel?
No, this is professional services with Capitalized
Okay.
Albany for administrative services for the agency.
All right, could I have a motion for positive recommendation?
So moved.
Lee, second. Dominic, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, contract number 4.
The contract for services for economic development services
All right,
with Capitalized Albany.
with Capitalized Albany. Motion for positive recommendation to the full board.
So moved.
Lee,
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least,
We have the contract for services for the IDA, and that's the 3-party agreement between the IAA, CRC, and Capitalized Albany.
a motion for positive recommendation.
So moved.
Lee, second.
Second.
Dominic, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Anything else? That's it, right? For all the
For
contracts?
professional service agreements, those are all recommended
Okay.
to the board, and we'll look to take care of them next week.
Now, if memory serves, I think the next thing we had on our agenda was Liberty Park, if I'm not mistaken.
We actually have a couple
No?
of small additional administrative items that are just
Oh,
reviews that are required. It's the financing guidelines review and the finance committee self-evaluation. Both of those have been provided in your packets. There are no proposed changes to the financing guidelines, and you can see it's really a summary of the Finance Committee's activities over the previous year. That is a best practice at the state level that the committee would perform annually.
Do we need a motion for this as well?
We don't, they're just
Just a-
reviews.
Just review. I have reviewed it. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments? All right. And the last one is itself. Go ahead.
Just quick on the self-evaluation. Are there any finance committees that really only meet 2 times a year?
So we do take the approach here at the City of Albany IDA, and it has been for some time, that the Finance Committee does act as sort of additional financial vetting for each of the project applications that comes through. And that's in addition to the chartered responsibilities of the Finance Committee to look to the finances of the agency itself. And so in order to be able to move project timelines a little bit quicker, and then also have a more in-depth review as a group, our Finance Committee tends to meet every time that there is a board meeting as well.
I think we're doing a good job.
We're busy.
Yeah, I applaud all the staff for all the additional work that you have to do to get all that done too. So
We're sorry.
I appreciate that. And on behalf of everybody, this 2 weeks, we have, I think it was 11 board and committee meetings across all of the groups. So if you think the stack of papers in your closets are pretty big, we are, at least we're digital now, so we're not killing quite as many trees. But thank you for that statement, everybody. This team works really, really hard to make sure everything's efficient.
Thank you for all the efforts. Did we go over the self-evaluation?
If you'd like to go through it, we can. If you've reviewed it as part of your packet today, if you propose any changes, we could make those, but it does go through a summary of the meetings and then a summary of our actions taken under 2020 activities, a number of other activities by the committee, and then notes on compliance with ABO and PAAA requirements.
Yeah, I had nothing to add or subtract or anything. Does anybody else have any comments or criticisms or comments?
I'm good.
Terrific. All right. Now, do we want to, I think the next thing on the agenda was Liberty Park. Do you want to go through any new business and old business beforehand? And
under other business, we just had very general updates. If you'd like us to sort of run through that, we do have a project pipeline building up. And so we'd anticipate that we're going to see a handful of new applications starting in January, coming up Q1 for 2021. I would also note that you've all been provided via email this week, Capitalize Albany Corporation's annual report that talks about the progress made over the previous year, a number of the large projects that we've undertaken as a group, and that is pursuant to the agreement for professional services and for economic development services with Capitalize Albany Corporation. So we did a more virtual digital forum, and we're in the middle of sort of Economic Development Week here for us. So you see that on social media as well. Would be happy to talk through that, and perhaps at the full board meeting too, we can go into a little bit more detail if you'd like it in person. That's all I had under agency update. Under compliance update, just of note that we are starting to see the beginnings of proactive requests for pilot amendments due to the impacts of COVID-19. So we are working through with council now to understand our abilities as an agency to entertain those or not. And we're also working with the projects that have started to indicate that they may be considering that to understand what their requests would actually be. We do not have applications in front of us or hard requests at this time, but just a heads up that those are things that are coming down the pipeline. So we may be having a lot of interesting conversations come January.
are they mostly for delays in newer projects to complete the construction, or is it beyond that?
It's a mixed bag of proactive requests, some based on pending legislation, some based on anticipated financial impacts moving forward. But again, since we have no specifics from any projects at this time, we'll keep you apprised of those and make sure that we're doing as much due diligence on the front end as we can.
Great.
Now, Sarah, regards to that, now how is that going to affect, is there any information or any guidelines coming down from the state of how we're gonna report, like on Paris for the, the restaurants and other businesses that we've helped finance, that have been closed or employees are laid off, to report that because, it affects, if they hit their employment numbers or not. So have there been any guidelines on how we're supposed to deal with that for the end of the year reports?
That is a great question, and we are ramping up for our annual Paris report process. Already, Virginia's been diving into that and preparing for next year with Andy already for that March report. I have not seen any direct guidance at this time from the authority's budget office or the Office of the State Comptroller. I don't know if Joe Scott, if you have sort of preemptively either.
No.
So, currently the way we would handle it is similar to previous years as we would go project by project through our active projects across their performance metrics. Jobs is one of them, but also the number of other requirements as part of their documents each project has. We would talk as a group about extenuating circumstances and if they fell, if they had a recapture clause baked into their documents, we would review them based on the level of non-attainment of their goals achieved. And so we would do that in February and March as typical. I will say we will actively be researching to make sure that if there is any direct state guidance, we'll be incorporating that into our reporting procedures as well. But currently there hasn't been anything.
And if I just may add something to that, Sarah, the issue there, Dominic, is not that it's a bright line test. If a company misses its employment level, it doesn't automatically go into clawback mode. There's a progression of issues that you would look to. I think what this IDA and this IDA staff is very sensitive to and has done a great job in the past on is monitoring and administering projects. And so what you're hearing from Sarah is exactly what we should be doing, which is taking a look at our policies, taking a look at the projects, and making a plan for addressing these issues. You run into problems when you don't administer your problems or your projects, when you don't look at your projects. And so what we're doing is exactly what we should be doing.
Sarah, it's interesting on your timing because I did pick up when I did the review. One of the questions in the application is, do you feel your project is going to be completed on time? Is that something we need to look at to have maybe a subset of answers there, depending on, or, I don't know how to do that. But I don't know if that needs to be adjusted, if that would be, a moving forward kind of addition.
Yeah, that's something, and we'll take a look at the application too. I'm hopeful that at this point we can call, COVID-19 an event that has taken place, and there will be a horizon where we'll stop seeing sort of construction delay impacts due to closures, although we are geared up if closures do happen again, over the next several months to anticipate that. Andy has been going around to each of the active projects to sort of actively engage with them to see where they are on timeline and, make sure that there's an open line of communication so that we can sort of see problems as they arise and be able to help. That's certainly something, that direct point is something that we can talk through active applicants with both at the committee and the board level to make sure that they're sort of thinking about a plan B and what happens on the construction schedule. We have seen, as you all know, we have seen and approved a couple of extensions to projects that have been approved but not yet closed. That has happened already. I don't believe we have any additional in the pipeline right now, but again, given 2020, we may see additional requests come in. We're tracking that.
Okay, cool. One of the things that I'm seeing, at least in our industry, is the contractors that have their projects are going forward. Now that the rates are going up, some of the construction sites are starting to get more cases of, not necessarily cases of COVID, but the quarantine or isolation exposure individually.
Sure.
And as far as getting answers out of New York State, I'm still waiting on answers on reporting when members are isolated or quarantined. Now that the funding has all changed from the beginning rounds, the last two rounds, now everything goes through disability and paid family sick leave. So it changed the application process, and now nobody knows how to report that because they are being paid at full rate during the 2 weeks of isolation, but nobody knows how to get repaid through the federal program as of yet, and nobody knows how to report the workers as they're paying on their income, but are they reporting benefits as such, or are they reporting it as only worked hours? So there's a lot more questions as everybody goes through. So anything we can do proactively would certainly help, and asking as early as possible. Getting a response is difficult at best.
That's all I had in other business. And as typical Capitalized Albany Corporation, just again to disclose that staff is employed by Capitalized Albany Corporation, and as such would recuse ourselves from the Liberty Park matter and leave the meeting unless there was anything additional from the committee.
I'll also be leaving the meeting because of my affiliation with Capitalized Albany Corp.
Great.
Thank you, Susan.
I'll just note that we'll go into the waiting room because we have to be here for the CRC meeting.
Okay.
I will move Susan and staff into the waiting room if there's no objection at this time.
Nope. Do we need to go into executive session for this, Joe?
Well, what I would suggest, Darius, is I give a very brief report as to the status of upcoming events, and then given the length of time, or given the comments made during the public hearing, the board members that are present might want to hear from Chuck and myself on some of our reactions to some of those comments, and that we should do in executive session.
Okay. So if has Capitalized left the building here?
I still see Andy. So May, you want to put Andy into the waiting room? Yep, good.
Was our last one?
Great. So it looks like we have board members and Amy and Chuck. So I'll start in the open session portion of this, which is in terms of report on status. We expect to get the appraisal report later today or tomorrow, and that will be available to the board for next week's meeting. We will also have some resolutions for consideration by the board next week, which would be the seeker resolution for this matter and a finding statement with respect to continuing the process of the eminent domain proceeding. Again, none of this commits you to moving this along, but what we're doing is putting the materials in front of you so that you can maintain a calendar and a process for completing the acquisition of the sites pursuant to the eminent domain proceeding. We also expect to have a copy of the report of the public hearing available for next week. Obviously, you have all attended the hearing today, but it'll be available for the members of the IDA that didn't attend the public hearing today. So unless there's any questions on the factual discussion of where we are in the process, I would suggest that we have a motion for executive session to receive the advice of counsel.
So moved.
Second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's move into executive session. And just give me a moment.
Okay.
And May's going to shut down the live stream and the recording, right?
Yes.
Yes, we keep a notice up saying that we're in executive session for the live stream.
And we'll turn off the recording also, right, May?
Correct.
And you're confirming that it's just board members and council, Amy, Chuck, and myself on the call.
Correct. I will move you into a breakout room once Mr. Sean Farr is ready.
Let's do it. All right.
Yep, just 1 second.
I'm back.
Here too. Did we adjourn the finance committee meeting? Or not
That
yet?
would be, yeah, I guess we can adjourn it right now without them, correct? Or do we have to,
Oh, you can adjourn it without them.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to adjourn.
all right, second?
Do we need to have that on recording though? We're live
That was
streaming.
my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah, why don't we,
Okay.
All right, you want me to be patient?
Do we have to make a statement about executive session or no?
Yes.
Okay.
We're recording and live on YouTube.
great.
All right, great. So executive session was adjourned at 2:15. No action was taken. And I believe we have Tracy made a motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting with a second by Lee Eck. Any discussion, any further points? All those in favor of adjourning the finance committee? Aye.
Hi.
Finance committee is adjourned. Now we can move on to the